All right. The first thing I wanted to show was the resources we have on our website available right now. Just can somebody just come off mute? Just let me know that you're seeing my desktop, and right now I'm showing the main Forest Service website or homepage.
Looks good.
Okay. Yeah. So on our homepage, there's a couple of different links here to get to the same spot. The first one right in the main part of the page, file your forest operations notification or FON online. Similar link in the top of the right-hand column. If you click on either one of them, it gets you to this our FOResT or Forest Online Resource Tool landing page or resource page. And I'll just scroll down through here. First part's just a little bit of background information on FOResT. There's a link right there where you would go to FOResT and set up an account and file a FON. Further down, there's some more background, timeline, things that you need to have before you get into FOResT. First one being an email account. Every account in FOResT is associated to an email address. And then the other key part is to remember that to get a notification to completion, all the parties on a notification have to have a FOResT ID or a FOResT account. Some information about that here. The frequently asked questions, just updated that this morning. Then there's also these video resources, and these are very short videos. The goal was to be 2 to 5 minutes long on specific parts of FOResT and different tasks within there to go over. And then there's also the recordings of our previous sessions we've had. And we'll be adding to that probably by Friday. I'll have this session up there on there. And again, at the very end, if you're frustrated or still have questions, here's how you can get a hold of us. Either call us, email us, or just submit it through our online form. So I'm going to close that for now. And I'm going to be doing this demo in our test environment. So there's going to be a couple of pop-ups during this demo that you won't see in the production version. And there also won't be this test environment in the text in the heading.
Greg, I'm wondering if we could take a moment. There's a question in the chat.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and yeah, thank you. I can't see the chat, so just jump in whenever there's a question.
Sure. The question is, will the mapping tool in the future allow for GPS lat longs to be entered for boundary corners?
I don't know if that's the same. Greg Miller you might have better information, but it is similar to the shapefile.
No, it's not. I don't know that we want to add individual GPS coordinates because a process will have to be run to connect all those into a polygon or a line, or depending on what you're trying to do with it. So my guess would be no, that you need to go ahead and create we're probably looking at a KMZ or a KML file that you could upload. So if you could do it in Google Earth, then you can go ahead and upload a file like that. But we can add it to the list and see, but I'm going to guess no.
All right, I hope that answered the question. So we're on the FOResT landing page or home page, and like Mort mentioned, on this home page, the first part we're going to do is we're going to create an account. So on the main section of the page in the lower right, there's this create an account button, and we'll click on that. And this takes you to a very basic, typical form that you would fill out to create an online account. And I'll just scroll down through here to show you the information we'll be entering. Name, contact information, phone number if you're a licensed forester, your license number, your email address. Again, you have to have an email to set up an account because the email address and the FOResT ID number are tied. You can't have multiple FOResT IDs under the same email, as well as you can't have multiple email addresses under one FOResT ID. Then you want to create a password and confirm it. And there are these requirements down here that are required for creating a password, and these are all based on the state of Maine security policies. And then the other information is your physical address and your mailing address if it's different than the physical address. And then you just, when it's complete, we'll create the account. So just wanted to give you a feel for what we're doing here on this page. So I'm gonna create an account. If you have a company name, you'd put it in here. And you enter your phone number, and you'll notice that as I started typing, there's this message right below the box that comes up. And along the way, I'm going to try to remember to point these out, but these are just additional information for you as you're filling out information in FOResT, just to help you understand what the type of information we're looking for. So for the phone number, we're just looking for numbers. There are no dashes or parentheses for the area code. I'll just put in my phone number. If I was a licensed forester, I'd put in my licensed forester number here, and I'll just start typing in here, and you'll see again there's these additional information that show up. And one of the things that we've recently added was when you're putting in your license number, you want to make sure that if you're a licensed forester, you start the number out with the capital LF, or if you're an intern, just FI. And it is case sensitive, so make sure that you're typing it in capital letters. This is a recent addition, and I'm not sure, not positive if it's gone into production version yet or not. But just be aware that when you're typing in your license number, we're looking for the capital LF or capital FI to begin the number. I'll just remove that. And then I'll put in I've gone in, I have an email address. And this one's specific for this demo. And again, that's the email address you're going to use to log into FOResT. Then the password. And you'll notice this list of requirements. As my password meets those requirements, this list is going to get shorter. So by the end of entering a password, there should be no more required elements listed below. And then it just asks you to type it in again. And once they've matched, there will be no messages below here. And again, remember, this is a password, email, and password that you're going to use to log into FOResT. So if you have multiple email accounts, make sure when you're logging in, you're using the right combination of email address and the password you're setting in this account up. And then the physical address. And if your mailing address is the same as a physical address, you would check the box here. And I'm going to do that for this demo. And so I want to show you, so I purposely skipped a piece of information on this form, and what it's going to do, this is a new addition, is in the past when you were clicking create an account and there was missing information, nothing would happen. We got calls and emails about this being broken, but what was actually happening was you couldn't create an account because there was missing information on the form, and you'd have to scroll back up to figure out what's missing. So now when you click that, and this may not be a good demo of it because it's right here on the same view. So, but what it'll do is I'll remove the row. And so when you click on it, it's going to take you back up to the field that is missing the information, so you can enter it correctly. You don't have to figure out what's missing or on the form. So once the form is filled out, we'll click create an account. And you get a notice here saying that you're almost there. And just for security, we've sent an email message to the email address you provided here to go there and check it and confirm that the email is yours. We'll click OK. It logs us, or takes us back to the main page on FOResT. So I'm going to close that screen for now. And I'm going to go over to another browser. And just so you understand, I'm now looking at my email, and this is my inbox, and I have this message here. It's confirm FOResT user account, the main FOResT service. I click on that, and this message just basically says that the FOResT system received a request to create a new user account under this email address. And once it's activated, you can securely sign in to FOResT and create and submit notifications. So if you get this message and you're not setting up an account in FOResT, don't click this activate account link and to contact us either by email or by phone. The other important information here on this email is this is your FOResT user ID number. So you want to keep that secure, but also handy, so that if there's another person creating a notification for you, they're gonna need your last name as well as this FOResT ID number. So you want to have it handy so that you can provide it to them. So for this demo, I'm setting up this account, so I've expected to see this email. So I'm going to click activate account. And it's going to take me back to the landing page in FOResT, and it's going to present me with the login page. And I need to go through this process of logging into FOResT before my FOResT account is completely set up. Some people see the email and assume that everything is good to go at that point, but there's this next step here about actually logging into FOResT kind of closes the loop on creating an account. So I'm going to log in with the email address I put in when I set up the account. And the password that I put in. Hopefully I've remembered it correctly. And sorry, will pop up here again. You won't see this. This is just letting us know that we're in the test environment for this demo. So when you're setting it up, your account up in the production version or the public version, once you log in, you would come to this page here. Before I move on to actually filling out or creating a notification, are there any questions?
Yeah, is there any outreach to landowners? Because there's gonna be a lot of back and forth with landowners as to have to do this before a notification can go in.
Yeah, we've been, the invitation to these sessions has been sent out to our various email listservs, letting them know that that we're transitioning to an online system, but B, we also have these public sessions available for participating in. In addition, we've been sending out a notice about this going online with all the notifications that have been when people call in saying I want a fawn form, a paper form. We include a notice about this going online, as well as when we have the actual printing of a completed notification at our end. When we're mailing information back to the different parties, we'll include information about this going online. I hope that answers that question, but understanding that we're here to help, and and we've already been helping people get their accounts set up. All right, if there aren't any other questions, I just want to give a quick overview. Mort covered it in his presentation, but this is the dashboard page, and some key features here. I'm now logged in. In the upper right-hand corner is the information of who I'm logged in as well as my FOResT user ID number. And this information is present on all the pages within FOResT. This is the dashboard page, like I said, and you can get to it from any other page by clicking on the dashboard page, dashboard link here. There's also a link to update your profile, and I'll show that towards the end. And then there's a link just for information on contacting us. Like Mort mentioned, the dashboard page has two sort of main sections. The first one is my pending notifications. Because I just created a new account, I have no pending notifications. These would be ones that you have started creating that may be in draft that you need to provide further information or do further edits to. It would also list out any that are pending certification, and these would be ones that you've completed your part of it and you're waiting for the other parties on the notification to certify their participation on it. Once all the parties have certified and the notification becomes active, it moves down to the second section here called My Active Notifications, and it'll list out information including town, the notification number because it's an active fawn, when it became active. This is just more of it's not the start date for the operation. That's the next column here, but this is just to let you know when the notification became active in the system. And then it'll list out the activities that are covered on that notification, either a harvest, road construction, or water crossings would be listed here. And then in both of these tables or sections, the far right-hand edge here, there would be a link to view the notification, either ones that are in draft or pending, as well as the active ones. So that's just a quick overview of the dashboard page. So we'll just jump into creating a notification here. And just some background, excuse me. I'm going to fill this out as if I'm the designated agent. We'll also have a landowner and a harvester involved in this notification, but I'm specifically just the designated agent. So the first section here is of the overview. Excuse me. There's going to just jump back up to the top of the page here, and Mort pointed out in his presentation, but there's this path along the top that takes you to getting a complete notification. So the first step is the overview, which we're on right now. And then there's mapping, activity details, contacts, where you're putting in the other parties that are going to be on this notification, and then the summary, where you're reviewing everything you've entered for this notification and certifying it. So the first step is in the overview is to identify my roles on the notification. And you'll notice that there are these little eye or information icons here. If you hover over them or if you click on them, it's going to provide you a little bit more information on what we mean by what's a landowner designation, or what is a landowner or a harvester operator. Excuse me. There's also links, and I'm going to try to point them out as much as I can along the way, but we've tried to also provide links for you to get more information about parts of completing a FON. And this one is just the related to forester licensing. There's a link here to go to that if you need to further review it. And you'll notice there's no other parts to the overview section at this point. If I said I'm just the harvester, nothing else will happen because a harvester cannot complete a notification. Only the landowner or designated agent can. So I'm going to uncheck that I'm a harvester, and you'll notice once I select one of these options here, some more information is presented to you. So I'm going to say I'm the landowner's designated agent. And so now I can kind of continue on the path of filling out a notification. The first part is the operation schedule. Excuse me. And this is just picking out the start date for the activity. And we're just going to say it's going to start tomorrow. And one of the things we're hoping that it's helpful is we're taking the notification's good for up to 2 years, and we're just automatically putting in the end date for it. And then in the future, when you're filling out the landowner report, if the operation ends prior to that full 2 years, you can note it on the landowner report, and that'll close it out sooner than the full 2 years. The next part is the property details, and this is where you're going to pick the town the activity's in. And I'm going to pick Abbott. And then the nearest road. And you'll see there's some information here that what we're expecting for a road name has to be at least 3 characters long. And then the parcel size in acres. Just going to say 550 acres. And then the question about if the parcel was purchased within the last 5 years. And I'm going to say it was. And again, these are all questions that we really tried to keep the wording of them the same as what's on the paper form now. We didn't want to start introducing different questions or different ways of phrasing a question. We understood that just going online from paper is a big enough hurdle that we didn't want to try to throw more in here. So we try to really stick close to the paper form as is right now. So that completes the overview section. I'm going to move on to the mapping, but before I do, are there any questions on this part? All right, excuse me. So we picked Abbott as our town that the activity is going to take place in. So I'm going to click next. And it's going to take us to the mapping page, and it's going to center Abbott right in the middle of the map here. And if you're familiar with using Google Map, Google Earth, or other GIS systems, this is very similar. The navigation, there's the zoom in button and the zoom out. You can also click and kind of drag it around to move. And in the right-hand side, there's this little button here. It has three, looks like I'll call them layers or trays. And if you click on them, this is where by default we have the map displaying as topographic, but you can change it to aerial imagery if you want. We also have it by default showing the town boundaries. If we are in a LUPC area, those sub-districts would be displayed. I'm just going to scroll down through. There are a bunch. Then we also, if we're in a statewide standard town, we have those features displayed as well. And then the last one is the wildlife, and there's just two features here, and by default we have them off, but I will turn them on for now. And these are both based on the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. It's either critical Canada lynx habitat or critical salmon habitat. I just want to show you that they're available if you want to look at them, and it's at the town level. So it's not really getting. It just gets down to the town level if those habitats exist within the town. I turn the wildlife off. And I'll just make a note as before I scroll back up. The statewide standards, Abbott, I believe is a statewide standard town, but you'll notice there are no features being displayed yet. That's because we have that. Those features turn on when you get to a certain level as you're zooming into the town. So you'll see that here in a second. Just going to scroll back up here. And I'm going to go back just to topo for now. And just to close this little window here, just click back on those three trays. And we'll just scroll in here a little bit more to Abbott. Excuse me. And you'll notice that these statewide standard features start to come into view. So the first thing we want to do is draw a harvest. And to do that, sort of in the bottom third of the page is these three buttons to draw the activity. There's either harvest, road construction, or water crossings. So we're going to do a harvest. So you would click on that button for harvest. And like all three of these activities, when you click on the button, you're going to be displayed to the left-hand side here. Information if you haven't used or drawn a feature on a GIS map, it gives you some instructions on how to do that. And so I'm just going to draw one here, and you'll notice my cursor. Hopefully you can tell there's a little dot kind of floating on the tip of it. So you just start by clicking once and just dragging, and you'll see there's a line there. And when you want to change direction, you just click again. And you'll notice once I started after that second click that this is starting to now calculate the size of the harvest. Right in the middle there is acres being calculated. And then just to end the drawing, just double click, and that stops the drawing. You can adjust this if you need to, a couple different ways. If you just want to move one of the existing dots, just click on it once and drag it. And that allows you to kind of tweak the shape of the harvest if you want. You can also add dots in the middle of these lines just by clicking once. You'll see that, well, before you click, you'll see there's this dot kind of floating on the line. So if you click and drag that, that'll change the shape also. So when you're satisfied with your harvest shape, you would go back down to this this table at the bottom. Now has a feature or an activity in it, and it's activity ID number 1. And you'll notice in the middle of this shape is the number 1, which goes with it. So number 1's a harvest. And you have 2 options in the table, either to save it or cancel it. Cancel it will remove this shape altogether. To save it, and we'll do that now. Sorry, I'll back up just a second. Before you save it, you can still go here and adjust the shape however you want to. Once you save it, you'll notice that the shape changes just a little bit. The dots are no longer available to edit on the shape. Down in the table, we've updated a little bit of information to say, okay, this harvest is going to be 243.4 acres. And the only option you have now is to delete it. And that would be if you just want to start over drawing that harvest again. But for now, we'll say that that's the harvest we want to map for now. And we'll go to drawing a road construction. So we'd click on the second dot here. And again, in the left-hand side, there are some instructions on how to draw a road construction. And you would just click once to start the line. And you'll notice as you're dragging it, it's starting to calculate the length of it in feet. And then to change directions, you just click once again, continue dragging. And again, just click and drag. And then when you're satisfied with the length of and the direction of where you want it to go, just double click, and that ends the drawing. And again, excuse me, like the drawing the polygon, you can change the shape of the line just by clicking on one of the existing dots here and dragging it. But you can also click on the line and drag it to add another point and to change the direction of it. Down in the table now, you'll see there's a number 2 here to identify the road construction, and you'll notice that the line up here for road construction has number 2 on it. We do ask the question, is the road temporary or permanent? And we'll say it's permanent. And like the polygon for the harvest, the road construction line, you have the option of canceling to remove it completely or save it. And still, you can still adjust this however you want to until you hit save. And once you hit save, that kind of locks that road construction in. Now you can't change it, but you can delete it. It also in the table, it now updates it to say, okay, this road construction is going to be 4,555 feet, and it's going to be a permanent road. The last activity you can draw on the map is a water crossing. And again, like the harvest and the road construction, you just click on the button. And it gives you information on how to draw a water crossing or identify one, and you'll notice that now it's not a dot that's on the end of my cursor, it's an X. And so what you're doing is you're just clicking once to put that X wherever you want the water crossing to be. So you click once, and that water crossing is in position on the map. You can move it if you just click on it, and you can drag it wherever you want. And then in the table down at the bottom here, again, these are all identified. So this is number 3. You can see there's a number 3 right by the water crossing. And we asked 2 questions about this water crossing. First one, is it temporary or permanent? Say it's permanent. And then the structure type, is this for a road crossing or a skid trail crossing? So we'll click road crossing. And again, you can still move this around if you want to until you click the save button, or you can remove it completely by clicking cancel. We'll click save now. And so that locks in that road crossing. It's number 3, and it's permanent, and it's for a road crossing. And just I want to show that you can draw multiple harvest road construction or water crossings. You just click on whatever you want, and I'll just quickly draw another harvest here just to show that you can add multiple harvests. And there is I'm not sure if I can actually show it to you. Maybe I can here. There is a check to make sure that you're only drawing an activity within the town. So I'm going to try to draw a road that leaves Abbott. Just to demonstrate this check. And you have to just say it's a temporary road. And when you click save, you get this note saying that the construction shape must be inside the notification town boundary. So it's going to keep your activities within the town you identified in the overview page. So I just wanted to show you that. So we'll cancel that to remove it. Let me just get in here. But that, I'm going to say that takes care of all the activities we want to do in this demo on the mapping page. Are there any questions on the mapping section?
Do you want to quickly change your background to an ortho photo so that they can see what that is, and then zoom in a little bit?
Yeah, hopefully it looks like I might have done something that might be slightly related to reality here. Yeah, it's not refreshing very quickly here, but yeah, there we go. A little bit of a lag in the aerial imagery, but just to give you an idea of what it would look like with the aerial imagery.
And you can switch between the topo map and the ortho imagery while you draw your features here. It's not an issue to just switch back and forth.
Right, correct. Yeah, so if we were, well, let's just go from here, and I'll just put in a water crossing. Actually, I'm not even going to save it yet, and I'll just go back to topo. And nothing changes on your table here. You can still save it if you want to, or cancel it, regardless of the background imagery, background base map.
Okay, and Merle, you have a question?
Yes, with activities where timber harvest crosses town lines, is this applicable to do just one block, or do I have to make a separate block for the other town?
You would go ahead.
You can only do a notification for a town.
Are you saying then I have to file another notification for the same timber harvest activity for the other town?
Correct. A notification only relates to one town.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right, so we've done all our mapping for this on this notification. And so the next step in this path is the activity details. I'm going to click next. And again, this is going to present you with questions related around the activities that you mapped. It's not going to, like on the paper form, you know, we kind of have to cover everything. So all the questions are on there. So this is going to be a more of a dynamic form based on what you put down for mapped activities on the mapping section. So we did say we're going to do a harvest. So we have our harvest activities section. And we're going to put in, oh yeah, we're going to cut 650 acres. Well, we can't do that. The way the system's set up is it's knowing that, okay, on the overview, you said your parcel was only 550 acres. So this harvest has to be less than that. So we'll change it to 500. The other option would be to do if you messed up on the overview page, you could go back to the overview section just to show that you can go backwards on this. You can go back to the overview section and change this parcel size if you want to. But we'll jump back to the activity details.
Greg, if I could just jump in.
Yep.
I might be stating the obvious, but if you've mapped a feature, if you've mapped your harvest activity correctly on the map, it's pretty handy to have it estimate harvest acres right there. I mean, obviously, your planning is going to tell you what the acreage was, but right there, it told you if this is correctly mapped, you're somewhere in the ballpark of 240 some odd acres.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm gonna try to make this make sense, but I want to just jump down here. The first thing you'll notice with this harvest activities is that we jumped back to the overview page and then came back. And what happened was when we did that, FOResT is saying, hey, there's some unanswered questions down here. So you'll notice that down below each of these questions are these little notes saying, hey, this information is required below all of these questions. And that's just because we jumped back off this page back to a different one and then returned to it. The other thing I wanted to show how it's dynamic is we have 500 acres in here for the harvest size. But down below here, we have these two questions around clear cutting. One is around if it's larger, if the clear cut's going to be larger than 20 acres that you're creating, or if you're creating ones that are larger than 75 acres. And so I'm just going to kick this back down. And you'll notice I've gone down to my harvest to be 5 acres, and both of those questions around clear cutting have disappeared. So we're trying to make it somewhat helpful to you that we're only going to try to present you the questions you need to answer. So since you're only doing a 5 acre cut, there is no need to ask you if you're creating clear cuts greater than 20 acres or 75 acres. So just some little things here. We're just trying to help you along here. So if we say we're going to do 50 acres, you'll notice that the question around creating clear cuts greater than 20 acres is displayed, but not the one for 75 acres. And then once we get back to 500 acres, then both of them are displayed. Just wanted to show you that little feature there. Again, we're asking questions that are present on the paper form now. This second one is around if you're harvesting under, if the land you're harvesting is under tree growth, yes or no. We'll say it is. The next question is a little bit of a different here. We do ask if there's a change of land use in the next 2 years from forest products. And like Mort mentioned in his presentation, if you check yes here, we present you with 2 additional questions to answer. The first one is a list of what you expect that land use change to. And in the past, on the paper form, we just have a blank field and you can fill in whatever you want. But we kind of reconsidered that, and we really don't need to know if it's a vegetable garden or a wheat field or golf course. You would just pick one of these broad categories and just say that's what it's being changed to. And then same as a paper form, we'd ask you to put down the number of acres that are going to be changing use. And then again, there are these little information icons here. These are specific when you're putting in the clear cut acres. Just make sure you're not counting the acres that are in change that are going to be converted to a different use. But in our example here, we're just going to say we're not going to create any clear cuts. The next question has to do with if you're going to be harvesting within 250 feet of a great pond, river, or wetland, or within 75 feet of any stream, and we'll check yes. The next one has to do with if you're adding wood to a stream, that's consistent with Maine Forest Service Chapter 25 rules. And again, this MFS Chapter 25 rule is a link. You'll notice my cursor changes, and I'm going to click on that. And it takes you to additional information about what Chapter 25 is all about. Close that. And we're going to say we're not adding any wood. This activity is in Abbott, so we do present you with the questions around related to statewide standards, which Abbott is one of those towns, and you just have to indicate which of the options you're gonna pick, and we'll just say 60 square feet for this example. So that takes care of the questions around the harvesting. The next section has to do with road construction activities. And this is a little bit of a bug we have in the system right now that we're working to correct. This first question has to do with altering wetlands. And both of these questions are tied specifically to activities within LUPC areas of the state. So these would not be displayed in normal, but you can put 0 in, and then yes or no if it's in a floodplain. I'll just say yes for this one. And then if there are any additional questions for road crossing activities, they'd be displayed here. But for this demo, it just notes that you did map some water crossings, but there are no questions, and just to make sure you review the requirements on the summary page for the water crossings. And that completes the activity details. Are there any questions before we go to the contacts page?
Merle Parise, I'm just noticing your hand is up. I'm not sure if that was a second question that you had?
No, I'm sorry. I don't have, maybe I should have clicked it that it's, yeah, there we go.
Yep,
I've
that's
lowered it
fine.
now. Thank you.
No problem. Thanks.
All right, I'm gonna take the next step here on this journey, and we're gonna go to the contacts section. So I'm gonna click the next button here. And so we're on the contacts page, and this is where I'm filling this out as a designated agent, and now I have to say, okay, who is the landowner? And in this example, who the operator harvester is. So I already know the landowner I'm working with has already set up an account in FOResT, which they have to do prior to completing this step. And so I have their last name and their FOResT ID number, and I'll put them in here. And I just, we'll see if that works. And I just wanted to show you that, you know, there's no match here for this one, that the last name and the ID have to match for the landowner's information to be presented. So it just says to double check what I entered, and I realize that I'm missing the last two here. And then just click find landowner again, and it displays the landowner's information here. If for some reason this isn't the right landowner, you can remove them here and start over with a different one. But we're going to say that's the right one. And this is one of those deviations from the existing FON where we kind of brought a couple of questions related to that are presented on the landowner report forward to the notification. The first one is about the number of acres that this landowner owns in Maine. And we'll check off 101 to 1,000. And then the landowner's ownership type. And you'll notice there are these information icons next to each of them to kind of define what we mean by each. And I'll say it's a non-industrial land or private woodlot. And that takes care of putting the landowner's information in. There's my information as a designated agent. And now we have to put in a harvester operator. So again, it's just like the landowner, the harvester operator has set up an account in FOResT. So they've already provided me with their last name and their FOResT ID number. And I click find harvester operator. And they're displayed here. And this is the one I was looking for. If it wasn't, again, like the landowner, I could click remove and do a different person here. And I'll just reiterate, you know, kind of how I'm describing these. Basically, a person has an account in the system in FOResT, and they can be, if they could be any of the three, a landowner, a designated agent, or a harvester operator. I just want to make sure it's clear that you have an account in FOResT, but you can be one of those three in FOResT. You don't have to have a separate account for each participant on a notification. You can have multiple roles or different roles on different notifications. And I just kind of want to leave it there. I don't want to confuse it more, but I just want to kind of make sure it's clear somewhat that if you have an account in FOResT, you can identify yourself as one of any of the parties on there. And so in this demo, we have a landowner, a designated agent, and a harvester operator. And that takes care of putting in the contacts for this notification. Are there any questions?
Greg, there is a question from David.
Yep.
The question I have is, the forest IDs, particularly for the landowners, when it comes to smaller ownerships, it may be, 10 to 20 years before it's time for another timber harvest on their properties. Do the forest ID numbers expire at some point, or do they remain the same?
They would remain the same.
Okay. There's no expiration date then?
No. The only thing that expires within FOResT, and I'm hoping I'm saying it right, is it's just the notification itself is good for up to 2 years.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
The only issue going forward 10 or 20 years is that we're assuming that the landowner's email would stay the same, because that's what it's tied back to, is the email.
Yeah.
All right, Dave, you have a question?
Yeah, I was just curious, some of the big ownerships, the AFMs and stuff like that, and I know in the past, company ownership used to submit one notification for a town, and you'd have multiple harvesters in that town. And I was just curious how you anticipated that to work as far as a landowner, a designated agent, and a harvester.
Yeah, Dave, we've had that question. I think obviously, as you point out, you can have a notification for an entire town. I think there's a balance to strike. I don't have a specific answer for if you have multiple harvesters. I think, that's something we have to work out with an individual notification, individual landowner. But certainly most of the time your planning is going to include a chunk of ground that a particular harvester's working on, and I'd probably start with that notification, and then if there are other areas that are also going to be worked, we could address that as things come up. Right now, there's no process for amending a notification, but that's also in play, so that might be a way to address the situation you're talking about. I hope that it's not a complete answer for sure.
Kind of similar, but a follow-up, and you could even have a landowner like you mapped out there 500 acres, and you put down, I'm going to cut 400. Are you breaking the law if you cut 500 then, or how fine are you cutting or following this?
Yeah, we've never had a sort of an accuracy test for acres, and in fact, what we're looking for pretty much is for a reasonable estimate, and we recognize that things aren't always to the acre, or even to the for larger properties to the dozen or 2 acres. So we're just looking for, again, what the intent of the notification is, to have a reasonable representation of where the harvest activity is and roughly how big it is. So I don't think we typically haven't seen any problems on that end. To both of these questions, both about the acreage and the harvesters, I guess I would just point out that those are both issues that would have come up with the paper system as well. So we just have to work through them as best we can.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, so we'll move on to the last step here on the summary page. We've done all the contacts for this notification, so we're going to click next here. And so now we're on the FON summary page. And this is where you're just reviewing everything you've already entered on this notification. And you'll notice that the status is draft, which means you can go back to any of these previous steps here. If as you're reviewing this, you find that there's an error or want to change something, You just, click back on one of these steps here to make that change, and then you can jump forward here back to the summary, and I'll show you here in a second. So the first thing we're going to review is just the contacts. This is the last step we did. We have the landowner, designated agent, and harvester on this notification. There is no licensed forester. And this is a slight change from the presentation Mort had. I think his text on his slide said marked as red. We've updated that now to say I certify that this information is correct. And so you would, if you're in agreement that that's correct, you can click the box here, and that just kind of closes up that section. If you want to review it again, you would just uncheck it, and it redisplays here.
All
Greg,
right.
I see that. I'm sorry, Greg. I see that Darren has a question.
Sure.
Go ahead, Darren.
Yeah, I have a question about contacts. If we could possibly go back to that, where
Sure.
I can see that there's a licensed forester section below that we didn't address. And so my question is if a landowner was making out one of these forest applications and they put in, and they did have access to my licensed forester ID number, and they put that in, I was wondering if you could kind of go through that scenario, that if a, like if I did the forest management plan for tree growth, 8 years ago, and they're like, yeah, I got a forester, and they put down my name, they happen to, and the logger goes, oh, I know his ID number because I did a job for him last year, and then that person puts my contact information. What happens with the system with that scenario?
Okay. Yeah, sure. And I think we're going to cover it here. It's going to be the same process regardless of who the contact is on this notification. Let's say this harvester is who I think is going to do it, but on their end, they're not the ones that are going to be doing it. And there is a process here where they can say, I don't want to be involved with this notification. And it's the same process whether it's the licensed forester, harvester, or landowner or designated agent if the landowner is filling this out.
Yeah.
So
Yep. Greg, I was just going to say, basically, Darren, you have the option, two things. One is you'd get an email that says you've been identified as a licensed forester on this farm. You can either, ignore that email, and the notification would never become certified, would never be completed, because you as a named party would not have certified it. Or you could actually click on the link, go to the notification and click decline and actively decline it. And that would, in either case, the notification would never get completed. And either the landowner calls you and says, hey, how come you haven't certified this notification? Or they get a notice from the system that says, this forester has declined to certify this notification. So you still have that option.
Now, do I have, because I have the link to go back to look at the application, can I, if I do have say I have a client that's struggling with the program, is if they're like, well, we thought we were the forester, and they put the information, can I delete myself out of the information so that way, that they can get the fawn up and applied earlier?
Well, what they would have to do is they would have to go back and withdraw their notification and then edit it to take your name out. There's no way for you as the as a named participant, but basically, if they wanted to have the notification finished, they'd have to go back and change it so that you're no longer on the notification.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
there's one thing I forgot to mention while we were doing contacts that we've run into a couple of times is somebody has, they put in, let's say they're the designated agent, they put in the harvester, and for some reason they can't move forward. And what we're finding is that some of them are not putting in the landowner, here. And it's something we have to look at. Do we need to, similar to setting up the account, when you click next, does it scroll you back up to say, hey, you need to add a landowner? Because when you're scrolling down here and you're think you're done with this page and click next, it doesn't move. And people are saying, well, it's the licensed forester isn't filled out, but I don't have one. And what we're finding is that they're just forgetting to put that landowner in there. So just something we've come across that we need to see if we can improve that experience. But let's go back to the summary page and reviewing the contacts again. We'll certify that those are correct. And then we're going to the overview section. The first step we took here is just saying the start and end date, the town, the nearest road, the parcel size, and then that it was purchased within the past 5 years. And that's all correct. So we'll check this box here. That it is. Then the next part is the mapping. And this is displaying the features or the activities you've mapped. And this is sort of interactive. The only thing you can't do is add new activities, but you can scroll out or in further, move around. You can also change the background to imagery if you want to. Whoops. As well as all the other features under here are also we can turn on or off. And then right below the map itself, it lists out all those different activities, the 4 activities we have mapped here with their corresponding numbers, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And again, it's just for review. And we'll just mark that that's correct. That's what we have plans for doing on this notification. Then the next part is the activity details. And again, you're just reviewing the information you've already put in on this notification. And there are still those links here to chapter 25. I think I forgot to mention it before, but there is around statewide standards. There's a link to section 7 of chapter 21 here. And then the questions around road construction, understanding that these would change because Abbott is not an LUPC town, and these questions are related to activities in a LUPC area. Then it just says, okay, there will be water crossing construction, and just to review the important reminders down below. And again, you just check that that is correct if it is. If it's not, you can go back to that specific section and update it as you see fit. But we'll say it's correct. The next section here, it's just, these are just if you have questions specific to our staff. There's the district forester that covers Abbott, as well as the Forest Protection Regional Office, their contact information here. And again, this wording here kind of doesn't quite make sense for this specific section. We're going to be updating that just to maybe that'll just say marked as read or something like that. But for now, it just says certify that this information is correct, and just check that. And then the last part on this is the important reminders, and just some standard reminders about checking with for local ordinances, and just make sure you're aware of all the rules that apply before you start your activities, and planning well in advance. Then there's specific ones related to if there are ones around harvesting. They would list the important reminders here. We do have one around road constructions, and this is just saying, I think check mark yes, that the road would be in a FEMA floodplain. And again, this is more related to LUPC areas, but just does say that, you know, there's a permit that is required and approved before you start the planned activity. Then there's also the question around if you're doing a water crossing, that a permit must be submitted 60 days prior to the construction. And then there are these general reminders, and these are ones around forest quarantines. And again, each of these quarantines are linked to our website. So if you click on one, it's going to take you to the up-to-date information. This one specifically on pine shoot beetle. But the quarantines are applied to the town of Abbott. All the quarantines are at the town level. So this specifically, these three fall within Abbott. And then we also have a link to information about important Atlantic salmon habitat. And as Mort pointed out in his presentation, there's a certify button at the very bottom that is grayed out right now because I haven't checked all these boxes that say I certify the information is correct. Once I do, that button becomes active. And again, if there's something you need to change, you can still go back here to any of these steps and change it. What will happen is this summary page will reopen all these sections and you'll review them again. That is because the system needs to have all these checked. You know, once you leave this page and you come back, all these sections need to be reviewed again. And then you would go to the certify steps here. So I'll check certify here or click the button. And I'm the designated agent on this notification. So I'm presented with these statements to acknowledge. And again, this at the very bottom, there's this button to acknowledge and certify that's not active yet because I haven't acknowledged these three statements. The first one just says I'm the designated agent and I've answered the questions here that are correct to the best of my knowledge and belief. The second one has to do with I'm the designated agent and understand that the landowner must sign in to FOResT and certify that I am the designated agent. And then the last one is that the notification is going to be submitted to the main Forest Service until all the parties have reviewed and certified their participation in it, basically. And that you're can't begin any activities that are required or require permits or other documentation. And once I check that last box, this acknowledge and certify button becomes active. So I'm going to just pause here just for a quick second to explain. Up till now, I could click the cancel button here and go back through and change anything on the notification and then repeat the steps that got us to here. Once I click acknowledge and certify, the notification becomes, its status changes from draft to pending certification. It also at the same time will send emails out to the landowner and the harvester in this example saying, hey, there's this notification. Well, we'll see it, but basically the other parties are going to get emails to acknowledge or certify their participation. And so I'm going to click the acknowledge and certify button. And it just says, you know, you successfully certified this notification, and then there are other contacts that need to notify before the other parties have been notified that it's ready for their certification, and that the font is no longer editable unless you choose to withdraw it. So just click OK here, and you'll notice things have changed just a little bit on here. You no longer have that path along the top. You're just on the summary page. The status has changed to pending certification. and you have this button over here to the right to withdraw the fawn. So you would click this button if you decide, okay, either one of the other parties have called you saying, hey, I don't like what's on this notification, or I don't want to be involved with this notification. Please take me off from it or change whatever needs to be changed. So you would click withdraw. It takes it back to a draft status, and you would go in and make the necessary changes and then repeat the process to get it certified. And then I'm just going to quickly go down through here, just notes that I certified my part at this date and time. And then I'll kind of scroll down here sort of quickly but slowly, just so nobody gets dizzy or sick or anything with the scrolling. But this is the summary page. The only thing that's changed is there's no check boxes here. You've already done your part. So this is just for your reference and review. And again, and I'll show it in the when we do the other parties. But the map is still, I'll say, interactive. You can do anything here you need to. You just can't add new activities. And then again, you're just reviewing, you're just able to review what's been entered already. So that takes care of, excuse me, doing the notification, my part of the notification as a designated agent. Before I leave that role, are there any questions?
There's a question in the chat box. Can you print out drafts, and how?
Okay. Yeah, so right now, I'll show you when we get to the whole certified section, but or when it's all done. I actually have not tried this to see what printing looks like here. It may not be built. When you get to an active notification, the only thing you can print is a posting, but we're building, we're adding on the abilities when you go to your browser and click that print option here, that it would allow you to print the summary page, the whole summary page. I don't think I've actually tried to print like one of the, like the overview page or one of the other parts. I know we are working on specifically, we've had questions about being able to print the summary after it's becomes an active notification. So we're working on that. All right, so I'm gonna sign out of FOResT here as a designated agent.
One more question.
Sure.
I believe Darren has a question.
Yes, is there an ability with this toolbar to save, you know, like in Dropbox or something, or the cloud on our computer? Can we save the application, or to be able to go back in, do we have to just use your system as the backup of our applications?
All I can say is that you would make a shortcut, and this may not be answering it, but you would make a shortcut. Specifically, you could make one to the home page of FOResT, and then you would just log in to FOResT. And I'm not sure if that gets at what you were.
Yeah, it's not possible to actually have a copy on your own machine with this. You actually have to go in through the FOResT application to go ahead and get back to it and make changes or additions.
I mean, but it's something. But your staff has access to obviously the program. So if what's to prevent somebody from the main Forest Service going in and making changes to my application after I submit it, and I don't know that changes have been made. I mean, if I don't have the original copy in my possession, like when I send in the paper copy, I've got what I sent in. You get the landowner copy, I keep the landowner copy and I send in the application. But with this, it's kind of like, you know, it's in your database, but it's not in mine. You know, so once I click the button, you know, there could have been changes, and how do I prove that changes have been made without my approval, basically, after the fact?
The way it's set up right now is our staff, all we can see is the summary page. We can't edit anything. And the plan is not to be able to do that. What you submit once it becomes active is it's active. We wouldn't be changing it.
So what you're looking for is actually the ability to go ahead and take a print of it once it's been finalized and assigned a notification number. That would be your hard copy in your files.
Right. Yeah, whether to print it off or to save it as a file in my database, so that way I know what this way I don't, you know, I know that what I submitted on what date, you know, and if there is an issue down the road, you know, as far as, you know, this is what I submitted, you know, on this date, you know.
Okay, yeah, I understand now. Yeah, the plan is that on the, and I'll kind of touch on it when we get to when the fawn is now active, but the feature isn't there yet, but we're adding it to be able to print the whole summary page. Once the fawn has been assigned a number and is active, you would be able to print that out either as a PDF or as a hard copy for you to save in your files.
So if somebody does go back in to make changes, they have to delete the active file, right, and start over again. And then, so let's say that the landowner has me listed as forester. They select a logger, then they decide they want to pick a different logger, and for them to delete the file, start over again, put down the new logger, I would still have to recertify again, and I'd be notified that there was a change.
Yeah, in that example, the notification still would not be active and be assigned a number. All the parties have to sign off before a number can be assigned. So if the harvester contacted the landowner, said, I don't want to be involved, they would have to come here and click this withdraw. And what that does, it removes any of the other parties listed on that notification from certifying their participation. The landowner would update the harvester to a different one and repeat the process of certifying and then sending an email out to all the other parties to certify their participation. It's specifically built so that, like you're saying, they couldn't change. If you said, I agree to everything that's on here, and then somebody goes and changes it, that can't occur. All the parties have to sign off at the very end to everything, the same information.
Good. Yeah, especially when you get into some of the issues like creating clear cuts and other stuff, that as the forester, that we may be responsible for creating the clear cut management plan, and not realizing that the logger and the landowner worked out this, you know, this modification and they forgot to notify the forester. So, you know, it's like you've got it well designed that there's checks and balances in there, that if there's edits that at least everybody has to agree to it again. So. Yeah,
and you'll see here in just a second that all the parties on a notification are viewing the exact same information. We're not displaying certain information to certain parties. It's all the exact same information that everyone's reviewing and agreeing to.
Yeah, if you could build in some way, you know, something very simple, whether it's just a print thing to be able to print off the information that we, you know, put on a certain date, you know, and be able to save in our own filing system. That'd be outside the system. That'd be nice down the road, you know.
Yeah, and the plan is to have the print the summary.
All right, thank you.
Yep. All right, so I'm going to sign out now as the designated agent from FOResT. I'm going to close that on my browser. Close that. So the next part of the process, and just trying to be clear here, as a designated agent, I've done my part. So for this demo now, I'm changing my role to be as if I'm the landowner. So I already know that my designated agent has, he was doing this thing, something called a fawn, and I was expected to see an email related to that and to certify my part on it. So now I'm going to change roles. I'm now the landowner. I'm looking at my email, and in my inbox, I have this FOResT fawn pending certification in Abbott. So I'm going to open it. And I don't want to read the whole thing, but basically it's saying that Greg Lord, the designated agent, created this fawn in FOResT, and it's currently pending certification until all the other parties certify participation in it. And that I'm identified on this as the landowner, and I need to certify my the information is correct and I understand my responsibilities before it's sent to the main Forest Service. Also, there's some very basic information about the notification, just who created it, where it is for in the what town it's in, and then the operating period, the start and end date. Then the next section of the email just says, okay, this is what you can do with this. If you certify that the fawn is correct and you understand your responsibilities, you can approve this fawn. If you decline and return it to the landowner, that means you don't approve of the fawn. And then all parties need to certify before it becomes active and is assigned a notification number. So there's this link here to either approve or decline your involvement in this fawn. So I'm going to click this link, and this is a kind of a key point. If you click on the link in the email, then you log in to FOResT here. I'm now the landowner logging in. So when I click sign in here, it's going to take me directly to what I need to look at for this notification. I bypass, if you remember, the dashboard, the other parts of FOResT. It's taking me specifically to this summary section for this notification. So this looks very similar to how we left it with as the designated agent. It's the status is pending certification. The key feature here is that right off the bat, there's this button to decline involvement. So I could say, as a landowner, I don't agree. I decided I need things changed, or I don't want to have a notification. So you can decline it here, and it kicks it back to the designated agent. And assuming there'd be some communication between the parties to either address issues or come to an understanding. And is there a question, or just hear some noise in the background? All right. So I can see under the certification section that Greg Lord, as the designated agent, has already done his part on this date and time. And then the rest of it is going to look very similar, exactly what we reviewed as if I was a designated agent. There's the contacts. You're reviewing the landowner, designated agent, and the harvester. And again, you're walking through the same steps here of marking these off as certifying the information is correct. The overview section. The map, again, same functionality as we did on the other summary page there. It's zoom in, zoom out, excuse me. change to the background to imagery. The list of activities on this notification. I checked that they're correct. Again, it's kind of assume that if there are questions that either the landowner would decline it or would contact the other parties to make sure that everyone's understanding what's going on here. Let's mark that as correct. The activity details, again, this is just what's on the notification for planned activities. Mark is correct. If there are questions for the Maine Forest Service, their contact information is here. The important reminders. Again, these are all the exact same ones as designated agent reviewed. And again, all these links are active here that can be clicked on. Excuse me. Look at quarantines, and then the important Atlantic salmon habitat. Again, the certified button at the bottom isn't active until all these boxes are checked off, and it now is active. And I forgot, excuse me, to point out when we first got on this page that in the top right-hand corner, it says that I'm now signed in as the landowner with this other FOResT ID. And that came in when I logged in from the email link that I clicked on. So as landowner, I've reviewed everything. Everything makes sense to me. It's what we agreed upon. So I'm ready to certify my part. Similar to the designated agent, as the landowner, I have these 3 acknowledgement statements to check. As a landowner, answers to the questions are correct to the best of my knowledge and belief. I understand that I have a designated agent, and then it won't become active until all the other parties certify their participation, and numbers, will be assigned at that point. And then once all those 3 boxes are checked, the acknowledge and certify button becomes active. And we'll click that. And just a note, just saying you successfully certified this fawn, and that their other parties or other contacts must still certify. And then you're back at the summary page. The decline button is gone now. And you can see that you've certified at this date and time. And again, this is still available to look at. And the map is still active, and somebody doesn't have their microphone muted. Appreciate it if it could be muted. And again, as the landowner, I'm just looking at this is now, I've done my part. I'm just looking at this for reference now. So that takes care of, as landowner, certifying my involvement with this notification. What I'm going to do now, we have one more party or contact on this notification, and that's the harvester operator. So I'm going to sign out as the landowner. And I'm going to close this. I'm going to close the email as the landowner. So now I've changed roles again. I'm now certifying my participation on the notification as if I was the harvester operator. So I'm now, as harvester operator, I'm looking at my email. Very similar to what the landowner saw. I have this email in here that I was expected, saying I have this fawn pending certification for this landowner in Abbott. Almost the exact same text as the landowner saw. The only thing different is that in this one, it says I'm identified as the harvester operator on this font. All the exact same text is here that as the landowner saw. And then the link at the very bottom is to approve or decline my involvement with this notification as the harvester operator. So I'll click that link. And again, I have to log into FOResT, and I'm logging in as the harvester operator. Oops. And again, because I clicked on the link, excuse me, from the email, it's going to take me directly to that summary page that we've already seen several times now. And the exact same experience that the landowner had. This is pending certification still. If I can decline my involvement in this notification and it's kicked back to the designated agent for updating or changes before it can be certified again by all the parties. And I'm just going to kind of breeze down through here because we've done this several times now, but we're just reviewing what's on this notification and the contacts. The overview section, again, if you had questions about what you're seeing here, either you can decline involvement in the notification or get in communications with the other parties to make sure that you understand what's expected or what's going to be going on with this notification. Again, shown before, the map still interactive. You just can't add activities. And then the table below lists those mapped activities out. The activity details, again, just reviewing what the designated agent put down on this notification. And again, if you weren't sure what chapter 25 was or section 7, these are links that will take you for more information. Exact same information that was presented to the designated agent to review as well as the landowner to review. Again, our contact information for those who cover Abbott. And then the same important reminders here. So once I've checked all those boxes as certified, certified button becomes active for me to continue on. And again, I forgot to point it out, but when I logged in, I'm now the harvester operator for this. I'm logged in under that account with this name and ID. So I'm going to click certify here for this notification. And as harvester operator, I only have 2 statements to acknowledge, just saying that I'm the harvester operator and all the questions have been answered correctly to the best of my knowledge and belief. And basically this can't be, the font can't be sent to the main Forest Service until all the parties listed have reviewed and certified acceptance on the notification. And a number won't be generated until it's submitted to the Forest Service. So check off that. So gonna pause again here for just to review kind of briefly what we've done now. So we're basically at the last step before a font becomes active. Once I click acknowledge and certify, several things will happen. But before I get to that, I just want to point out that in our demo, we kind of know the steps and we know that this is the last contact to certify their participation in the notification. So what could happen is the harvester could click cancel, go back and click the decline button. That would kick it all the way back to the designated agent who is a notifier. They could make the changes necessary to the notification, and then repeat the same processes of certification. The designated agent would do all the steps that we covered in the demo. The landowner would do the exact same ones they did, and as well as the harvester operator would do the same. So I just want to make sure that this is sort of the last step. There's still a sort of a opportunity here to change things. But once we click acknowledge and certify here, several things will happen, and I'll point those out here when I click this button. So this notice comes up. Basically, was determined that the harvester operator was the last person to certify on this notification. So it says this is we successfully certified this fawn. It has been submitted to the Forest Service and is now active. So we'll click OK. And if we scroll back up to the top here, you'll see some things have changed. Before it just said fawn summary. Now there's actually a fawn number assigned to it, and the status is now active. And you also have this button here to print the posting. I'll click on that, and this is very similar to what we generate now for a posting. And like I said earlier, I think it was to Darren, that the plan is to be able to print this summary page out. And it might be when you go into your browser and you click print, that it would give you the option to do that. Right now it's set up to just print the posting. So the goal here is to change this either through the browser or a different button to print the summary page, all the way down to the bottom through the important reminders. The other thing that changed here is we kind of present right up at the top here. Now that it's an active notification, it's probably a good idea to just make sure you're aware that there's a landowner report that's going to be required to be completed related to this notification. And we'll plan to have demos on that part this probably late summer, early fall on completing landowner reports in here. And then again, this is the certifications. The 3 parties certified it and accepted their involvement. And then again, this is the summary page we've looked at several times now. All the same information. It's just now it's an active notification. So this is just here for reference. And again, the map is still interactive. So that completes the process for creating a notification. I do have two things I want to touch on, but I'll wait here to see if there are any questions.
Darren has a question. Go ahead.
Yeah, I noticed that on the acknowledge and certify box, there's the difference. The harvester only had a couple of questions, and then the designated agent / landowner had 3 questions that they had to certify, check off, and then confirm. What I was wondering is it possible to go back through? I mean, without taking too much time, just to kind of open up your modify whatever, if you modify your application, check off that there is a licensed forester, and then go through the process to see. I'd like to see what the box says. Like, what am I going to be certifying and acknowledging as the forester for one of these operations? How many boxes do I have to check off and confirm as part of the application?
Yeah, I can do that. It's going to be very similar to the harvester. Let me because I'm going to have to jump completely out of this to do that, because we'll have to kind of speed through one. But before I do that, are there other questions?
There's a question in the chat. what happens if there's no reply from the landowner? And you can actually apply this to all the participants. What happens if if the participants don't go ahead and reply to their email? Does the system do anything or not? I don't believe we have the system set up to check back.
No, they're just sitting there as the status is pending certification. And again, we're assuming that there's going to be communication between the parties, and if for some reason there's something's getting hung up, that we're assuming that the other party's going to reach out to them to try to help them
to go ahead and make it happen.
Yep. All right, so I wanted to cover just two things here I didn't earlier. There's my profile page. I'm logged in now as the harvester operator, so I can go into my profile and I can update the information on here, except for the email address, because the email is tied to this FOResT user ID number. But everything else on here can be updated, and once you make the changes, just click update my profile and that would take effect. The other one is I'm going to go on the dashboard, and this is going to be looking a little different or a little bit more busy. So when we first were on this page, we had just set up an account and it was under a different person. So there was nothing listed for pending notifications or active notifications. So I just wanted to touch on what it's going to look like when things start happening. I have one pending certification notification here, and there's this link here to view it. And I'm not even going to scroll, but basically this is the same certification page. I could click decline or certify my involvement with it. And then the other ones here are my active notifications. And these are all ones that are, well, obviously they're active. They all have notification numbers assigned to them, which is an indication that they're active. And they also, they list out the different activities that are going to occur on that notification. And again, you would click view. And again, this is going to look like, well, the one we just completed. We have landowner report information, and then the rest of the summary page there. So I just wanted to touch base on those two additional things in FOResT. If there are no other questions, I was going to jump on Darren's request here, and I'm going to kind of go quickly through creating an, actually I have to do a couple of different things.
Greg, if I could,
Yep.
I'm just going to jump in and say for those, I mean, this has been a long presentation, and I really appreciate everybody hanging in there. So if there are people who need to jump off, I just want to say thanks for attending. And I also just want to underline that even though we've spent, a big chunk of the morning here going through this, the actual process doesn't take a whole lot longer than filling one of these out on paper. So I hope you're not intimidated by the fact that we've kind of turned over all the stones and looked in all the corners of these notifications and talked about different scenarios. But submitting a notification through FOResT really is not going to be terribly complicated for most folks in most situations. So I just wanted to say that, and again, thank folks who do need to leave. Seeing that Dave Shibley had a question. Dave, if you wanted to unmute and ask a question. Dave, you're still muted.
There, okay. This is assuming that all loggers and landowners have computer access.
Mhm.
I know of loggers who do not. I know of landowners who do not. Not everyone's going to run to the library. If they haven't got a computer, they're not going to be comfortable doing this. How are you going to address sort of these dead ends, not people, but where you can't get them into the system?
Yeah. So no surprise, this is a question we've had a lot. And the short answer is we've heard it. We've definitely recognized that it's an issue. And we are working on a system or a solution to assist people so that they'll be able to submit notifications. I don't have exactly what shape that's going to take, but we've heard that question loud and clear, and we are going to address it.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Dave DeGratola, you had a question as well?
Yeah, to kind of just go on with Dave Shively's question, is it possible that as the licensed forester, if you were given, could you get like special designated agent status because these individuals do not have internet access or computers to approve on their behalf? Is that an easy workaround to this?
Well, the current rules, and in fact the law itself states that there are circumstances where a licensed forester with a fiduciary responsibility, I won't go into all the legalese, but essentially the current notification rules already provide for that. It hasn't been incorporated to the FOResT system at this point, but it is another add-on that we're working on to accommodate that possibility. That you'll find it expressed in the rules and also in the statute. So if you go to the FOResT page, you will actually see a link to the rules around Chapter 26, and basically that'll describe what the possibilities are. And again, I'll just say we're working on solutions to make those kinds of situations possible. Anything else? I realize those are kind of open-ended answers, but again, it just goes to the point that Greg made earlier, which is it's a work in progress. We are in a transition, and there's some aspects of FOResT that we are definitely still working on.
And then, Dave, you have another question?
Are you open to suggestions that
Sure.
they be addressed, or would they be sent?
Yeah, go ahead. Dave, we are definitely open to suggestions and comments, so go ahead.
I'm asking if you want suggestions and they can be in writing, where would they be sent to?
Well, you can certainly send them to forestinfo@maine.gov. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Greg, that's the correct generic email address that'll get to Greg Lord, who's kind of running the process here. So that would probably be the best bet.
Yeah, and there's also, I think you all got an email from me either yesterday or today about joining this meeting. So if it's easier, you can just email me directly too. But definitely, it was gonna before. I can't see who's here and gone, but yeah, we're always open to suggestions and criticisms. We would much rather hear about them and have the opportunity to address them and make this a better product for everyone, for sure. And again, I'll thank everyone for attending. If you have to go, thank you for taking the time out this morning to join us. I hope it was helpful. And again, we'll have a recording of this up on our website, hopefully by the end of the day on Friday. So I just had to do some things to show Darren what the experience would be for a licensed forester. I had to update my profile. I'm now in a completely different one now. Still in the demo version here. I had to add myself as a licensed forester. And I forgot, I don't think I pointed it out earlier, but if I was logged in as FOResT and I wasn't a licensed forester, in the demo earlier, this checkbox was grayed out saying I am a licensed forester, because it's checking my profile to verify if I have a license number or not. So I'm just gonna, so I can kind of go through this, I'm just gonna say I'm the licensed forester and the designated agent for this notification. And again, I'm just gonna kind of quickly go through this here, so bear with me. Because I think, Darren, the only question you had was specifically on what's displayed at the end there for acknowledgement statement.
Yes.
Correct? Okay.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. Let me just kind of buzz through creating a notification here, and this may not be quite real time, but it's closer to real time than what I did earlier today. And I'm just going to say there's a harvest there. So again, I only mapped a harvest here. So the only questions being presented are around the harvest itself. And the other earlier, it was around, all the different activities I had mapped. Let's see, there's. All right, I'll add a landowner. You see I'm the designated agent as well as the licensed forester in this one. So I have to put in a harvester. Yep. I forgot the S on the last name. All right. Oh, and I forgot to find the landowner. All right. Summary. Actually, I'm going to change this because let's see. This doesn't. I'm just trying to think on how to do this correctly so that you can see what a licensed forester would see. Well, actually, I have one here, so. I think that's a count. Okay. So I'm going to quickly go down through here as the designated agent. Certify, and I'm the designated agent here, not the licensed forester. So this is just what's being displayed for the designated agent. Okay. So now I need to go to Gmail. All right, so I'm logged in as I'm the licensed forester. You sign out of FOResT first. So here's the email. The only thing different here is it's identified as a licensed forester. I'll click in here. Log in as a licensed forester. All right, so let's see, we're in here as a licensed forester. You can see here up in the upper right hand corner that name and ID. Let's get down here to the certification statements or acknowledgement statements. And so these are similar to the harvester, just you have two of them there. Zoom. So Darren, those are the two statements if you're just the licensed forester on a notification that you would be presented with.
Thank you very much. That was awesome that you went through that so quickly, but it made sense, by having that, you going through it a second time really quickly, but it all fit together nicely. So yeah, I mean, like Mort said, once you get all the information in the system, it goes fairly quickly. I mean, you did that in a couple of minutes. I mean, so
yep.
Yep. I think it'd be probably even faster than the paper copy. So, and thank you very much for bringing that up. I was just concerned that there might be like a second, a third or fourth question for the forester. And I just want to know what the questions were ahead of time before I agree to do this project for a landowner. I want to. It's nice to know what the process is without having to actually do one. Basically.
Right. Yep.
No, thank you. And my last question. This is for anybody that's from the Maine Forest Service. When I registered for this, it asked if I was a licensed forester, and I checked off yes. And now, is it something where are you going to be to licensed foresters? Are you going to be sending out like attendance sheets or a certificate or something to prove that we attended this class so that we could maybe use these for continuing education credits?
We don't have that plan to do that.
Yeah, Darren, I have to say that the question came up before, and I don't know that we looked into it too far, but I'm not certain that something of a technical software sort of nature like this would qualify. I don't want to speak for for SAF or anything like that, but this is pretty much.
That's but it's something where there's it may not be category 1. I mean, that might be to be determined later, but it's something, but it definitely be covered under other categories under continuing education credits. Because not all hours have to be category 1. So this might satisfy. First aid applies for the additional hours basically, or other personal enrichment courses that are you know, somewhat related, that are environmental studies. So I was just wondering, but the main issue is just an attendance sheet. So if it is determined that I could use these hours, that I have proof that I did, you know, attend the class, basically.
Yeah, I'm sure we can get that to you, Darren, and I apologize, we didn't pursue it as far as, you know, getting it pre-approved as CE.
Yeah, no, yeah, and I realized that, you know, I mean, that's, you know, I don't mind having to, you know, make a few calls to find out if, you know, if I'm going to use this before the end of the year, is to get it determined. But I was just concerned. It's a lot easier now to ask for proof of attendance than it is 6 months from now. And
Sure.
I mean, like I just did an Invenza class with the Maine woodland owners, and they just sent me like a simple, you know, that was a Zoom class, and they just sent an attendance sheet, and it had my name and how many minutes I was, you know, logged in, and that was, you know, and I could link that to the Zoom workshop. So that was, you know, I'm just keeping track of them, you know, and figuring out which ones I can use possibly at the end of the year. So
yeah, I'm sure we can do that.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. And I really appreciate this class. I really, you know, it was well presented, and I feel I can, you know, definitely, you know, hit the ground running using this program. So thank you very much.
Sure. Dave DeGrotola, you had a question as well?
I just wanted to concur with Darren for the continuing ed credits, because this is a significant change to what was, and with some landowners and some logging contractors, there is going to be a certain amount of hand-holding on the forester's part to help them through this process. So I think it's important that continuing ed credits of some nature are allocated to it because of the significant change to going paperless.
Yeah, understood. Greg, did you have anything else?
That is it, even with bonus material. So thank you all for sticking with us, and ran a little bit longer, but I hope that additional bonus demo was helpful for everyone. And you know, thank you again for attending.
Dave, do you have a question, Scheibel? You have your hand up.
No, I don't. I just happened to notice my hand was up. Not supposed to be.
All right, just checking.
Yeah, so just thank you all. Thank you, Mort and Greg and the rest of the team on here. And again, if you have comments, questions, or you get into this and you're getting frustrated, please let us know, you know, what those are, so that we can help you. So unless there's anything else, you know, thank you again.
Thanks, everyone, and have a great day.